Hello and welcome to Unlock the Power of Chat GPT. I'm Hos, and in this training my goal is to share with you the techniques behind crafting great prompts that get great results. As AI improves, systems like Chat GPT evolve. We've already gone from a basic chat interface to voice capabilities, and there will be more changes as time goes by. But like everything else in life, mastering a system comes down to understanding the core skills that drive it. You can't read a great book and learn from it if you can't read very well. You can't drive a Lamborghini and enjoy it if you can't drive very well. With computing and AI, the more sophisticated the technology becomes, the easier it becomes to use the systems. But that doesn't mean we become better at using the systems. If you're 5 years old, talking to a genius doesn't make you a genius, and it certainly doesn't enable you to get the most out of the conversation. AI doesn't change this fact. No matter how sophisticated the technology becomes, getting what you want from AI comes down to a few core essential skills that work no matter how much the technology changes. And that's what this course is about. It focuses on the basics that always apply, so you can use tools like ChatGPT effectively now and in the future. I'll start with the basics of LLMs and prompting, so we're all on the same page, and then move on to the good stuff. Before we get started, be sure to follow me on my channel, They Call Me Hos, for ongoing updates and insights as we go deeper into the age of AI. In this module, I'll be covering the basics of LLMs and prompting, but don't worry, I'll make it interesting. Let's get started. The two main ways to communicate with ChatGPT right now are voice and by typing into the chat box. For things like questions and like research, I tend to use the phone app. Let me give you some examples. How far is the sun?
The sun is about 93 million miles away from Earth. This distance can also be expressed as about 1 astronomical unit, AU, which is the average distance between the Earth and the sun.
At what time do trees release oxygen?
Trees release oxygen during the day through the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis primarily occurs when sunlight is available, as it is driven by light energy. During this process, trees absorb carbon dioxide from the air and use sunlight to convert it into glucose and oxygen. The oxygen is then released into the air, mostly during daylight hours. At night, in the absence of sunlight, photosynthesis stops, and trees consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide through a process called respiration.
What is the healthiest way to make coffee? For example, French press or filter coffee?
The healthiest way to make coffee largely depends on how it's filtered. Filter coffee, such as that made with paper filters and a drip brew system, is often considered healthier than methods like French press or espresso that don't use paper filters.
These are easy questions that I can run by the AI to get a quick answer. I can even continue the conversation and ask more questions until I arrive at the answer I want. For example, I could only remember one word in a quote by Napoleon Hill, and I asked ChatGPT to tell me the quote that used that word. The answer wasn't the quote I was looking for, so I asked for more until one of the answers helped me remember another word in the quote. And this way we arrived at the quote I wanted. I consider these a bit of light research or curiosity questions, and voice is the ideal method when doing this because it's fast and all we need is a simple answer. On the other hand, for task-based questions or instructing the AI to perform complex tasks, I prefer to use the web app or the desktop app, and I type into the chat box because I want to be able to think and modify my prompt as I build it. Throughout this course, I will be using the chat box, even for the easy prompts, so you can see the prompts and I can explain the logic behind them. Let's keep moving. One thing to note is that AI can and often does output answers that are not quite correct. For example, you could ask ChatGPT to tell you the route between 2 train stations, and it could list all the stops, but not in the right order. That's happened to me more than once. My rule of thumb is if you're creating content out of thin air, like an article or a story, where it's all about the creative process, the irony there, of course, is that this is AI, then the output is generally good to go. But if you're listing references or facts, it's best to double-check the output, just in case. Let's begin with a quick demonstration of what we can do with ChatGPT. Let's start by asking the AI some questions. How far is the sun?
The Sun is approximately 93 million miles, 150 million kilometers, away from Earth. This distance is known as an astronomical unit, AU, and is a standard unit of measurement used in astronomy to describe distances within our solar system. The exact distance can vary slightly due to the elliptical shape of Earth's orbit, ranging from about 91.4 million miles, 147.1 million kilometers at its closest, perihelion, to about 94.5 million miles, 152.1 million kilometers at its farthest aphelion.
Now let's do some research. List some popular coffee filter machines in the UK.
Here are some popular filter coffee machines available in the UK. 1. Melita Filter Coffee Machine. Known for its high-quality brewing and durability, Melita offers several models with features like programmable timers and aroma selectors. 2. Russell Hobbs Buckingham. This coffee maker is popular for its affordability, fast brewing time, and advanced showerhead technology that ensures better extraction of coffee flavor.
I just bought a coffee machine and I actually have a real question. What size paper filter does the Mocha Master Cup 1 filter coffee machine use?
The Mocha Master Cup 1 filter coffee machine uses size number 1 cone-shaped paper filters. These filters are specifically designed to fit the single cup brewing basket of the Cup 1 model. Make sure to use this size for optimal brewing results and to ensure proper fit and function.
If you're new to this, you're already getting a glimpse of the power of generative AI. A quick bit of research like this can easily save you time and frustration. And we're just getting started. Let's continue. Write a letter of appeal for a parking ticket I received on a Sunday for parking outside the local swimming pool. I had no idea the parking rules applied on a Sunday. I have never received a parking ticket before and I am a responsible driver. I'm struggling financially at the moment due to the high cost of living, and this is quite a stressful situation.
Dear Sir Madam, subject, appeal against parking ticket, ticket number. I am writing to formally appeal the parking ticket issued to me on date for parking outside the local swimming pool. The ticket number is ticket number, and my vehicle registration number is your vehicle registration number. On the day in question, I parked my vehicle outside the swimming pool, unaware that the parking restrictions applied on Sundays. There were no clear signs indicating that parking rules were enforced on Sundays, and I genuinely believed that it was permissible to park there on weekends. As a responsible driver with no previous parking violations, I always strive to adhere to parking regulations and ensure that my vehicle is parked legally and safely. Furthermore, I am currently experiencing financial difficulties due to the high cost of living. The unexpected expense of this parking fine has added to my stress and financial burden. I respectfully ask for your understanding and compassion in this matter. I have attached copies of my previous clean driving record as evidence of my commitment to being a responsible driver. I sincerely hope that you will consider my appeal and waive the fine given the circumstances. Thank you for taking the time to read my appeal. I look forward to your favorable response.
If you're impressed so far, you'll be pleased to know that the BBC ran a story about a student who used this exact technique to have her parking fine revoked. And here's another story the Mirror newspaper ran about a man who used this technique to get out of a £100 parking fee. Let's run through more examples. Create a 6-month contract for a graphic designer I want to hire.
Graphic designer contract. This graphic designer contract, the contract, is made as of start date, by and between, client, your name, company name, your address, city, state, zip code. 1. Services. The designer agrees to provide graphic design services, including but not limited to list-specific tasks, e.g., logo design, marketing materials, website graphics, etc., for the client, the services. 2. Term. The term of this contract shall commence on start date and continue for 6 months, ending on end date, unless terminated earlier in accordance with Section 9 of this contract.
And another. Create a 6-month tenancy agreement for a small apartment I want to rent.
The landlord agrees to rent to the tenant the property located at property address City, zip code, the property. 2. Term. The term of this agreement shall commence on start date and continue for 6 months, ending on end date, the term, unless terminated earlier in accordance with Section 9 of this agreement.
You'll find dozens of great examples like these, as well as more advanced ones on my channel. I'll put a link to them at the end of this course for your reference. But for now, we've seen a little preview of what we can do with Chat GPT. These examples save time and money, and they only took a few minutes to create. You can save countless hours and money by generating content like simple contracts without a lawyer, researching almost anything, or creating content for clients and earning from it. Okay, in the next video, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of LLMs. I'll see you there. Systems like Chat GPT are called large language models. A large language model, LLM, is an AI system trained using machine learning on a vast array of text, including books, articles, websites, and more. What makes these LLMs so powerful is that they can generate new content from the knowledge they have been trained on. That's why this technology is called generative AI. The examples in the previous video included asking the AI questions about known facts, like how far is the sun, but I also crafted entirely new content like letters of appeal and simple contracts. You can also prompt the LLM to create a new story. It will apply its knowledge of grammar and story structures to craft a tale in almost any language you can think of. And that brings me to the second key point. The LLM has learned to put words and sentences together in a way that makes sense to humans. It has analyzed a vast amount of data to recognize patterns in human language. This enables it to predict the next most likely word in a sentence. So if we start with once upon a time, the AI predicts the next most likely word to be the, and then was, and then a. So we end up with once upon a time there was a. Now here's the thing. Because the LLM's output is human-like, it's easy to believe that it's actually thinking. Just like if we trained the monkey on everything ever written, and the monkey was able to write coherent responses to our questions, we would believe it was thinking deeply about our questions. Watch this. Thank you so much for all your help. I do have a question for you, but I'm feeling a bit sad.
I'm sorry to hear you're feeling sad. If you'd like to share what's on your mind or ask your question, I'm here to listen and help in any way I can.
See what I mean? So let's ask the AI how it's able to do what it does. I know LLMs are trained on a large corpus of data and they're able to output human-like text. But that doesn't quite explain the sometimes astounding results. It's like you're able to think. Would you explain to me what else goes into an LLM that makes it seem so magical?
I'm glad you asked about this. The capabilities of large language models, LLMs like me, can indeed seem quite magical. And while we don't actually think in the human sense, several factors contribute to our ability to generate human-like text and produce often impressive results. Conclusion. While LLMs don't think like humans, the combination of these advanced techniques and vast training data allows them to generate text that can seem quite intelligent and human-like. The magic you perceive is the result of these sophisticated processes working together to understand and generate language in a way that mimics human communication.
So basically, it's magic. Now, when interacting with large language models, anything we type into the chat box, whether it's an instruction, a command, or some context, is known as a prompt. Hence the term prompt engineering. It essentially means prompt design or prompt creation. But there is an important distinction to understand. We are not prompt engineers. The people who program the LLMs are the actual prompt engineers. They use language and code to create the system's back end. We are the end users, interacting with the system's front end. What we do is communicate with the system. Now, let's quickly review the recent history of LLMs from the end user's perspective. A company called OpenAI made Chat GPT available to the public in November of 2022. Before that, the general population didn't have access to this technology. Today, you can pay OpenAI a subscription to access the most advanced public version of Chat GPT, or use the standard version for free. Let's do a quick recap. Large language models, LLMs, use AI and machine learning to generate content based on instructions known as prompts. These LLMs have been trained on almost everything ever written. They process human language and can produce human-like responses to any input. One of the most impressive things about these systems is that we can use voice or a chat interface to communicate with them. So we don't need to learn to code in order to use them. We can simply interact with some of the most advanced technologies in recorded history without any technical skills or barrier of entry. Now, there are some limitations which I'll talk about in a later video, but for now, we've covered the basics. And for the sake of clarity from here on, I will refer to these systems simply as AI. That saves me from having to say LLM over and over. And just so you know, the prompt examples I've shown so far were quite basic. The aim was to show how quickly you can generate content, but there are more effective ways to prompt that get you even better results. And we're going to get into that in the next video. I'll see you then. As I mentioned in the previous video, anything you type into the chat box is known as a prompt. A prompt can be an instruction or a command, such as create a 6-month contract, or it can be a piece of information for context. For example, the graphic designer I want to hire must have at least 3 years commercial experience. There are 3 main types of prompt you can use: zero-shot prompts, one-shot prompts, and few-shot prompts. A zero-shot prompt is one that provides no examples of how to perform a task. For instance, if I say, please make a cup of coffee, that's a zero-shot prompt. I'm depending on your existing knowledge of making coffee to complete the task. And if I ask the AI to write a poem about spring, there are also no examples provided in that prompt. So the AI has to rely entirely on its pre-trained understanding of what a poem is and what typical spring imagery may include in order to generate a poem about spring. Now, in many of my videos, I use zero-shot prompting. I do this deliberately to show how advanced the AI actually is, because it's able to derive meaning and context from very little text. Zero-shot prompts work as long as the task is simple. You can always use follow-up prompts to regenerate the content or make adjustments. For example, if I say to you, this coffee is too weak, please make another, but this time use the espresso pods. That's the equivalent of a follow-up prompt, which I'm using here to ask for the task to be performed again, but differently. However, if the task you want the AI to perform for you requires specialized knowledge or a specific format, zero-shot prompts are pretty ineffective, because we need to provide the AI with some examples of what type of output we want. For example, let's say you want to change a list of dates into a specific format. A zero-shot prompt would look something like this. Convert March 14th, 2024 into ISO 8601 format. If we don't provide the AI with an example, the AI may not know that particular format if it's not in its training data. And even if it is, the AI could still get it wrong if the format is inconsistently used in its training data. This is where one-shot prompts come in. One-shot prompts contain one example of the type of output we want. We can avoid the formatting issues in the previous prompt by using a one-shot prompt, like this. Convert January the 1st, 2019 to 2019-01-01. Now convert March 14th, 2020 into the same format. Here you can see that the one-shot prompt includes an example of how we want the output. Providing an example is crucial when dealing with things like standards that may not be universal or that may have multiple valid representations. For example, a 1-cup measurement in the US is 240 milliliters, but here in the UK it's 250 milliliters. That's the problem with standards. There's so many of them. So if there's any chance of the AI interpreting something wrong or in a different context, use an example of how you want the output. One-shot prompts are also ideal to use when you're dealing with your own custom data. Let's say you have a list of 9-digit numbers and you need the numbers to be presented in 3 blocks of 3 digits. You can use a one-shot prompt like this. Here we're giving the AI an example at the start of the prompt to show the AI how we want the output formatted. That's a one-shot prompt. And then we have few-shot prompts. These are prompts that provide the AI with multiple examples so it can perform a task. Let's say we want to generate a program that generates book titles for a specific genre. We could use a few short prompts like this. Genre science fiction. The galactic frontier. Stars beyond the horizon. Echoes of a distant tomorrow. Genre romance. Whispers of love. Forever in my heart. The Last Dance. Genre mystery. The Forgotten Clue. Murder at Midnight. The Silent Witness. Genre horror. Shadows in the Mist. The Haunting of Willow House. Cries in the Dark. Input genre fantasy. These examples give the AI contextual clues to help it understand the task. The prompt ends with a new genre, fantasy. This tells the AI that it is expected to generate similar style titles for that genre. And here's the AI's output.
Genre, fantasy. 1. The Enchanted Realm. 2. Dragons of the Eternal Flame. 3. The Sorcerer's Heir.
You don't have to enter things in brackets, by the way. You can simply type what you want the AI to do next. For example, you could type something like, please generate the following genres, fantasy and satire. When it comes to prompting in general, the more specific you get, the better the output is going to be. If your prompt is vague, the more complex the task is, the more vague the output is probably going to be. If you ask a human to perform a task, the more complex the task is, the more information you're going to have to provide if you want the task done correctly. For example, if I ask you to create a 6-month contract for a graphic designer that I want to hire, you'd probably have a list of questions for me. Things like, is the work remote or in an office? Does the graphic designer need to live in a specific location or can they live anywhere on the planet? What are the terms? What about pay? What hours are you expecting them to work and for how long? What about the work itself? What is expected of them? What about experience? What if they want out of the contract before the 6 months? Etc. The point I want to make is that the more context you leave out, the more the AI has to assume. So don't expect it to give you exactly what you wanted if you don't give it all the information it needs. Luckily, when it comes to prompts, you don't only get one go. Instead, you can respond to the AI's output with more instructions or context if you're not happy with the output, or if you want to expand or improve the output. For example, you could type things like, generate 10 more. Make the article simple enough for a 12-year-old to understand. Write it in the first tense, etc. This means you don't have to write the perfect prompt right from the start. Instead, type everything you can think of and then tweak as needed. It really is just like a conversation with another person. It's interactive and it can be incremental, meaning you can add meaning and context as you go, just like we do in human conversations, in order to shape the output. Okay, in the next video, we'll cover the art of crafting effective prompts. Prompting is about communication. There are no secret phrases. It's about the process, not the words. Think of it this way. There is no single way to ask somebody to have lunch with you. Using certain words instead of others is not going to get you a better result as long as the words convey the same goal. Shall we grab a bite to eat? Hey, are you hungry? How about some lunch? All those sentences express the same thing. The only real secret when it comes to getting what you want from AI is being able to express your thoughts clearly. So don't get too attached to the words. Sometimes a prompt that gets great results stops being as efficient as it used to be. This is simply because models are constantly being updated, not just with data, but with filters and guardrails, which restrict the AI. What we end users have access to is a heavily restricted version of AI. To give you a real example, during the research for one of my videos, I asked Chat GPT to create a chapter of Alice in Wonderland in which she swore and was rude to everybody. The output was hilarious. 2 days later, when I tried to record the interaction for my video, OpenAI had already clamped down on this and I couldn't get anything remotely similar to that first interaction. So that's the good news. You don't have to memorize magic phrases and words to use in your prompts. You just need to communicate clearly. When it comes to crafting prompts, if you use zero-shot prompts for complex tasks, you're going to get average results. Sometimes average results are good enough, but if you want better output, you have to spend the time building your prompts. But that can create a problem of its own, because the more input you type, the easier it is to confuse the AI, especially if you're not expressing yourself clearly. I cannot stress this enough. If your communication skills are not that great, then this is the one thing you need to work on if you want to be the master of your generative AI experiences. Now, let me give you a structure for your prompts, a schema to help you better structure your communication with the AI. This will at least provide you with a template you can use to create pretty decent prompts. Function plus task plus goal plus context plus conditions. Let's start with the function. Tell the AI who you want it to be. It has long been documented that the output usually improves when you give the AI a role to play. So let's say we want to generate an article for a blog. We could simply ask the AI to do that, and that's okay. But the data shows that we could get better results if we instruct the AI to assume the role needed for the task. So let's put together a prompt that does this. You are an expert SEO with excellent writing skills and years of experience writing blog articles. Okay, next is the task. Tell the AI what it is you want it to do. Let's do that. Create a 2,000-word article about tiny homes. The article should be well optimized for at least 3 high-value keywords related to tiny homes, as well as other semantically related keywords. Next, we add the goal. Tell the AI the outcome you want. The goal of the article is to rank number 1 in Google. By letting the AI know what we expect from the article, we are tapping into the AI's training data. Remember, it has been trained on almost everything ever written, including digital marketing strategies and know-how. That said, you should not expect the article to rank number 1. There are many variables outside of the AI's control involved in ranking, including the competing website authority on the topic and Google's secret algorithm. But the point remains the same. You want to give the AI the intention behind the task. In this case, telling it to craft a top-ranking article dictates that the article should be well optimized and be of high quality. Okay, next we need to give the AI some context. This is where we explain any details the AI should know in order to perform the task. The article will be published on a low-authority website in the US. The target market is the US. The target audience is people who are interested in tiny homes. The article should be informational. We are not selling a product. We are targeting people who are just getting started with their research into tiny homes. The context here is pretty brief, but even so, it significantly affects the output. An informational article can be quite different from a product-based article because they each target different stages of the buyer's journey. One targets people seeking information, while the other targets people ready to make a purchase. But if this was a real prompt, I would be adding a lot more context in order to have more control over the output. Okay, next we'll add some conditions. Conditions are like rules to follow. Keep the tone of the article friendly but informative. Make it easy to understand for the average person. The audience wants to learn more about tiny homes, so make sure each paragraph delivers one key fact in order to keep the reader engaged. Include analogies about buying and living in traditional homes to make the subject more relatable. Include the pros and cons of tiny homes and compare those to traditional homes. Use bullet points and numbered lists in the article to break down long paragraphs and make them more readable. Ensure that no single paragraph has more than 7 sentences. Conclude the article by contrasting tiny homes against traditional homes. In this part of the prompt, I threw in a lot of instructions from tone to paragraph structure. These are the conditions or rules you set for the task, and you can set as many as you want. And this is what the prompt looks like in Chat GPT. You can break up your sentences like I have by simultaneously pressing Shift and Enter. This will move the cursor to a new line. You don't have to do this for the AI's sake, but it can be useful for you as it's more readable. And here you can see the output for that prompt. You can see just by skim reading the article how the input gave us control over the output. Now, when it comes to the schema I just shared with you, you don't have to include all of it in your prompts. But the more things you include, the less the AI has to guess. You also don't have to structure things in this order. You can type your prompts like a brain dump if you like, and add things as you think of them. The AI is smart enough to figure it out. The last key thing to take away from this video is that when we're instructing the AI to perform a task for us, we can control a lot more than may be obvious. In the example of generating an article, some people will create a pretty good prompt, giving the AI all the ingredients it needs, but then wait to see what the AI comes up with. That's like a game of roulette where you get to throw the dice as many times as you want until you get a good result. Well, instead, it can be more like driving a car where you are the one steering all the time. For example, you can actually specify what you want the conclusion to be, because if you don't, the AI will generate one for you. An example of end-to-end control would be to ask the AI to generate an article for a specific audience, give it all the context it needs, and then specify the conclusion. You may want to impart a moral or make a point. A conclusion can make or break an article, so tell the AI what the conclusion should be. And one last point about article word length. In the example, I requested a 2,000-word article, but currently ChatGPT often falls short. There are reasons for this, which I'll explain in this section on limitations. For now, the workaround is to ask ChatGPT to create an outline for the article and then generate each section of the outline separately. Okay, we've now covered all the foundational stuff. Right now, you know enough to be dangerous. But now it's time to take things to the next level. I'll see you in the next module. In this module, I'll be covering various precision control techniques to enhance your prompt creation. This is the fine detail of prompting. It's what often makes the difference. They say the performance of gold medalists is usually only a tiny percentage better than the competition, but that tiny percentage is where the edge is. So let's look at how we can make those tiny refinements to win the game. In this video, I'll cover various precision control techniques to gain more control over the output. You'll recognize some of them from the previous module, but this video will give you the chance to see the concepts in action when used with an example use case. Now, when it comes to prompts, there are numerous prompt patterns you can use. A prompt pattern is a specific way of structuring a question or instruction to help the AI understand and respond more effectively. It's like a formula that guides how you ask something to get the best possible answer. I asked the AI to list the most useful prompt patterns. Please list the most popular prompt patterns I can use to interact with ChatGPT. You can find this output in the description below this video. Just like the prompt schema I shared with you, these patterns can serve you as templates. Okay, so I want to talk about one specific pattern. In my opinion, it's one of the most effective ones. It's the persona pattern, which we covered in a previous video. To recap, the persona pattern is where you ask the AI to take on a role. For example, you are a direct response expert and prodigious email marketer. In this example, I'm prepping the AI to help me craft an email to a person I have never contacted before. You could also use this approach to generate a cold sales email. Now, I could have just told the AI to assume the role of an email marketer, but by suggesting some related skills, I can potentially improve the output even more. Okay, so far we've introduced the function. Now let's introduce the task. Please create an email asking a social media influencer known as Hos if he would agree to be interviewed by me in an upcoming podcast. So now we have the function and the task. So far, so good. One of the things we can do at this point to gain more control over the output is to give the AI an example of what we would like to see. This is particularly useful when we have a particular format in mind. In this case, I want the email to follow a certain structure. Example structure: greeting, ask the question, mention the topic, explain a bit about the podcast. We can also provide examples for each of those sections if we want even more control over the output. This approach for this example is useful because in most cases the AI will generate a cheesy greeting for this type of email. Remember, the AI relies on its training data. If it's been trained on countless examples of standard marketing and outreach emails, then it's going to come up with the same type of template-like email. Usually these emails go something like this. Hey Hos, I love your content. And then you mention a particular video that impressed you greatly. And then after dropping the compliment, you ask the question. This is pretty standard. Most outreach emails are a variation of this template. So one good way to avoid the AI from regurgitating this type of opener is by giving the AI an example opener. Like this. Example greeting. Hello, name. I hope you're well. I realize you're probably busy, but I wanted to ask a quick question. Providing examples of the output you want is one way to make your prompts more effective and the output more targeted. Another way to enhance your prompts is to provide the AI with context that is not in the AI's training data. For example, this could be your private data or any information that happened after the AI's training data cutoff point. And by the way, you can simply ask the AI when does its training data go up to, and it will tell you the date of the last update. Let's do that. When does your training data go up to?
As of my last update, my training data goes up to September 2021. I don't have access to real-time information or updates beyond that point. If you have questions about events or developments after that date, you might want to use other sources or tools to get the most current information.
This obviously changes as time goes on, but it can be useful to know when you're crafting a prompt that requires time-specific information that may not be in the training data. For example, if you ask the AI to generate an article about this year's Academy Awards. Okay, let's get back to our example. We're creating an email for an influencer called Hoz. Hoz is not really famous and the AI doesn't know about him, so we can introduce some new information in our prompt to help the AI craft a more personalized email. Please mention some of the newest topics on his blog and ask him if he would like to talk about one on the podcast. His website is www.theycallmehoz.com. This prompt tells the AI to explore Hoz's content and find some topics that we could discuss on the podcast. It also saves me having to do it. Another example of new information we can introduce to the AI could be our backstory. For example, explain to Hoz some of the things we've been working on, which include a platform of online courses for aspiring solopreneurs. Mention how having him on the podcast would be of interest to our audience because there is an overlap in the topics we cover. Let's see the output.
Subject: invitation to join our podcast. An exciting opportunity to discuss your latest topics. Hello, Hoz. I hope you're well. I realize you're probably busy, but I wanted to ask a quick question. I'm reaching out to see if you would be interested in being interviewed on our upcoming podcast. We are incredibly impressed by your insightful content, especially your recent posts on the importance of authentic engagement on social media, strategies for growing a loyal following, and tips for balancing personal life and social media presence. Your expertise on these topics would be a fantastic addition to our show. A bit about our podcast. We focus on empowering solopreneurs with the knowledge and tools they need to succeed. Recently, we've launched a platform of online courses designed to help aspiring solopreneurs navigate their entrepreneurial journey. Our audience is highly engaged and always eager to learn from experts like you. Having you on the podcast would not only provide immense value to our listeners who share a strong interest in the subjects you cover, but also offer you a platform to reach a new, enthusiastic audience. Would you be open to discussing one of your latest topics on our podcast? We would love to hear your thoughts and insights. Looking forward to your positive response.
That's a pretty good email. I personally wouldn't make any changes to that. It's good to go. Another way to improve the output is to add context as you go. This is useful because most times you just can't account for everything in your initial prompt. For example, we may realize once the content is generated that the language is hard to follow. We could instruct the AI to rewrite that email for a particular reading level. And we can continue to provide feedback to the AI in this way until we're happy with the output. So to recap, some precision techniques you can use include using the persona pattern to instruct the AI to assume a role in order to complete a task. Instructing the AI to assume related roles relevant to the task for a better output. Providing examples of the output we want, like a structure for our email. Introducing new information that is not in the AI's training data to help it accomplish a task. Things like links to specific pages, custom data, or context. Adding context as you go in order to shape or regenerate the output. Next, we'll look at how we can gain even more control over the output. I'll see you in the next video. Sometimes the output may not be what you intended. This usually happens when asking for something that has more than one interpretation. For example, if person A says, "Do you know what time it is?" and you tell them the time, person A could say, "I didn't ask you what time it was. I asked you if you knew what time it was." Now, obviously, person A has no friends, but still, they are not wrong. The problem is that we interpreted the question in a certain way when there is more than one correct interpretation. Just like when you ask a child what's 1 and 1 and they say 11. That's also one correct interpretation, even if it wasn't the one you intended. I actually hit this issue myself as I was preparing these lessons. Please list the most popular prompt patterns. This is the prompt I typed. The AI gave me a list of popular prompts for LLM software engineers. That's not what I wanted, but the answer wasn't wrong. The AI just assumed I was talking from a prompt engineer's perspective rather than an end user. The root of the problem is obvious. I was lazy and fired a zero-shot prompt with more than one interpretation. So to fix this, I added the intention to my prompt, like this. Please list the most popular prompt patterns I can use to interact with Chat GPT. This time the AI got my meaning because I specified what I wanted the list for. The multiple interpretation issue is almost always down to not conveying your meaning well enough, and that usually comes down to not giving the AI enough context. When person A asked you the time, if you knew the goal was to catch the next train or to find out whether they were late for something, you would rightly assume they actually wanted to know the time. On the other hand, if you knew the goal was to test you with a trick question, you may have thought better about the answer. So explaining to the AI why you wanted to perform the task or adding more context is the single best way to fix this issue. Sometimes the AI starts generating content before we want it to. This can happen when we're not quite explaining ourselves as well as we could, or when we haven't provided enough context. Let's say we fired a zero-shot prompt like, generate an outline for a well-optimized article. This could be interpreted literally by the AI. In that case, it would generate an outline for a well-optimized article, choosing a random topic, when in reality you probably already had a topic in mind. Now, this type of prompt almost always made the AI jump the gun and go ahead with its own examples. But these days, in most cases, the AI will actually ask you for a topic and even for the target audience. This is because the AI learns continually from user input. This problem also arises particularly when using the voice app, and I'll get to that in a moment. Now, asking for articles is common, but let's say your prompt is less common and the AI starts generating content before you want it to. If you find yourself in this situation, the best way to stop this from happening is to end your prompt with an instruction for the AI to ask for input, like this. Generate an outline for a well-optimized article. Ask me to input the topic of the article before you generate any content. Now, when using voice functionality, this issue can happen even more often. Let me show you an example. I'm going to ask the AI to generate a story about a boy who likes trains, but I want the story to be for a 4-year-old. Let me show you. Tell me a bedtime story about a boy called Alexander who likes trains. It's already processing.
Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by vast green meadows and winding rivers, there lived a boy named Alexander who loved trains. His passion for trains wasn't just a hobby, it was a part of his daily joy.
Now, I can tell you from experience that the story as it goes on is a bit too complicated for a 4-year-old to understand in terms of language. And that's why I wanted to specify a reading level. The truth is, sometimes when you're giving voice commands, you need a little pause to think. And that's when the AI can jump the gun. So here's the way to fix that. Please wait for my instruction before you speak. Please generate a bedtime story about a boy called Alexander who likes trains. The story should be for 4-year-olds. Please speak.
Once upon a time, in a small, cozy town, there was a 4-year-old boy named Alexander who loved trains more than anything.
That's how you fix that problem. Another great way to control the AI's output to a greater degree is to introduce ground rules at the start to guide the AI's output. It's like saying no parties allowed when you leave the AI in charge of your home. So let's look at an example. The article must contain 5 H2 headings. The article must contain 10 paragraphs. The article must start with an introduction to the topic and end with a conclusion. Setting ground rules comes in very handy when you have a preferred formatting in mind, or when you're working with private data and you need custom formatting. Let's look at another simple example. Create a short email applying for a position as a plumber. Do not mention plumbing. And here's the output.
Subject: application for position. Dear hiring manager's name, I hope this email finds you well. I am writing to express my interest in the available position at company name as advertised on where you found the job posting. With a solid background in hands-on technical work and a strong commitment to delivering quality service, I am excited about the opportunity to bring my skills and experience to your team. In my previous roles, I have developed a keen ability to diagnose and resolve a wide range of issues efficiently and effectively. I take pride in my attention to detail and my dedication to ensuring customer satisfaction through timely and professional service. I am confident that my proactive approach and strong problem-solving skills would make me a valuable addition to your team. I am eager to contribute to company name and am looking forward to the possibility of discussing how my background, skills, and certifications align with your needs. Thank you for considering my application. I am available at your earliest convenience for an interview and can be reached at your phone number or your email address.
This is a very effective strategy for generating content when you want to avoid mentioning something. Let's say you want to ask for a promotion in your workplace or a wage increase, but you want to do it subtly without actually mentioning the word money. Or you're writing an email about a touchy subject or a sticky situation, and you want to avoid using certain words or language. Setting ground rules will help you narrow the AI scope so the output is a lot more targeted. You can also create rules that frame a situation and affect how the AI interacts with you. This can be quite powerful. Think of it this way. If you told a friend that the person you're about to introduce him to is a millionaire, your friend may act in a somewhat different way than if you told them the other person had just got out of prison. This is an effective technique to get the AI to give us the output we need. Let's look at an example. Act as my therapist. Ask me a series of questions to help me unwind at the end of the day, then offer suggestions as to how I can deal with any issues I mention. Your job is to help me stay away from stress. Any and all suggestions you make must help me stay away from stress.
Of course, I'm here to help you unwind and manage your stress. Let's start by exploring your day and any sources of stress you might be experiencing. 1. How was your day today? Can you describe any specific events or moments that stood out, whether positive or negative? 2. What are the main sources of stress or anxiety you are currently facing? Are they related to work, relationships, personal goals, or something else?
In this example, I instructed the AI to prioritize keeping me calm. So if the most likely suggestion to an issue involves conflict management or dealing with another person, the AI will have to come up with a different solution. And here's another example. Create a 2,000 calorie meal plan. Prioritize health and blood sugar control with every food suggestion. And since we're using this as a ground rule at the beginning of the session, it will apply to any follow-up prompts, such as, now create a 2,500 calorie meal plan. Here, the ground rule ensures the AI continues to suggest foods that are in line with the concept of healthy eating and blood sugar control. The techniques we covered in this module are small refinements, but they can make a huge difference to the output. In the next module, we'll dive into the advanced stuff. I'll see you there. You've made it to the advanced section. With all that we've covered so far, you already have the skills to use LLMs like Chat GPT better than most people. This section is going to put you in the top percentage of end users. Let's do this. The first advanced technique revolves around the persona pattern. As we've already covered, the persona pattern is where we ask the AI to assume a role in order to perform a task. I want to show you how you can add a little magic to this technique and take this idea to a whole new level. First, instead of telling the AI what role to assume, ask the AI what type of expert you need in order to accomplish the task. In many cases, when you're trying to solve a problem, you may not actually know who the best person to solve the issue is. So don't assume, ask. Then, once you know the roles, instruct the AI to assume each of those roles and deal with the task. Let's visit a clip from one of my videos showing this idea in action. I used to tell the AI to assume the role of an expert in order to get the best possible answer. But then I thought, how do I know who the right expert is? And then it came to me. Just ask the AI. I am a UK resident. US Chapter 3 tax withholding is being applied to my YouTube channel's earnings. I also pay UK tax on those earnings. So it seems I'm paying tax twice. As half the world knows by now, I have dyscalculia, so I don't even know what US Chapter 3 tax withholding is. I thought it was a book. Anyway, the old me would have instructed the AI to act as a financial expert. List the expert professionals best suited to deal with this issue.
Certified Public Accountant, CPA. They can help you understand the complexities of the US tax system, including the Chapter 3 tax withholding. Chartered Accountant. They can provide guidance on UK tax laws and can advise you on how to avoid double taxation under the US-UK tax treaty. Tax Attorney. A tax attorney specializing in international tax law. Financial Advisor. They can also assist you with the tax aspects of your YouTube channel revenue. International Tax Consultant. Tax Treaty Expert.
Wow. And how much is that going to cost? Oh, nothing. I want you to roleplay, act as each of those roles and provide each expert's advice on what to do.
Under Article 12, you might be eligible for a reduced withholding rate on your U.S. earnings, potentially down to 0.
If your withholding is still higher than expected, you might want to file a non-resident U.S. tax return to potentially reclaim excess withholding.
You'll likely be able to offset the tax paid in the U.S. against your UK tax liability through foreign tax credit relief.
In your case, you must comply with both U.S. and UK tax laws. It seems you might be eligible for certain benefits under the U.S.-UK tax treaty.
I hope I'm not imagining all this. One of the easiest yet most powerful techniques we can use is to specify the audience. This can dramatically affect the AI's output. You can create a piece of content for high school students and then regenerate the same content for PhD students and end up with two pieces so different in tone and complexity that they seem unrelated. And yet, this is a vastly underrated and underused technique. And the reason this matters is because every piece of content has an intended audience, and therefore a reading level. Applying this technique is as simple as telling the AI who the content is for. Like this. Explain why ships don't sink. Ensure a 12-year-old can understand the output.
Sure, let's break it down step by step. Why ships don't sink. 1. Buoyancy. Ships float because of a force called buoyancy. This force pushes objects up in the water. When a ship is placed in water, it pushes some water out of the way, displaces it. The water pushes back up on the ship with a force equal to the weight of the water displaced. If this force is greater than the weight of the ship will float.
Now explain it to me like I'm a PhD.
Certainly. Let's delve into the principles that ensure ships float, considering the scientific and engineering aspects in more detail. Why ships don't sink. A detailed explanation. Archimedes' principle. Buoyancy. According to Archimedes' principle, a body submerged in a fluid experiences an upward buoyant force equal to the weight of the fluid it displaces.
Another powerful technique involves asking the AI for help shaping your prompt, like this. I want you to format a list of postcodes. Please ask me as many questions as you need to in order to perform this task. Continue asking questions until you have all the information you need to perform the task.
Sure, I'd be happy to help with that. Here are a few questions to get us started. 1. How is your list of postcodes currently formatted, e.g. comma-separated, line-separated, mixed? 2. What format do you want the postcodes to be in, e.g. comma-separated, line-separated, specific grouping? 3. Are there any specific formatting rules or patterns for the postcodes, e.g. length, case sensitivity, separators? 4. How many postcodes are in your list? 5. Do you need any additional information to be included or removed from the postcodes, e.g. country codes, extra characters? 6. Would you like the formatted list to be in a specific file format, e.g. text file, CSV, JSON? Feel free to provide the current list or a sample of it if you have one.
This technique will almost always show you how much information and context you're leaving out in your prompts. It's especially useful for creating long or complex prompts and can make a significant difference. Plus, It's often easier to answer 20 questions the AI thinks are important and to figure out those 20 details yourself. A really cool technique you can use when you're building a complex prompt or you're trying to convey complex meaning is to ask the AI what it understands the task to be. This literally removes the uncertainty from your end and enables you to make corrections if needed. Like this: please generate a quiz game where you output a question and 4 potential answers. One of the potential answers must be correct while the other 3 must be incorrect. Keep going until the user gives up. I deliberately added a vague instruction, until the user gives up. It may not be clear to the AI what giving up looks like in this game, so asking the AI what it thinks we are asking it to do is simple but very effective. You can just add something like this: please explain back to me what you understand the task to be.
Sure, here's what I understand the task to be. 1. I'll create a quiz game for you. 2. In each round, I will present you with a question and 4 possible answers. 3. One of the 4 answers will be correct while the other 3 will be incorrect. 4. The game will continue with new questions until you decide to give up. 5. You can respond with your answer and I will let you know if it is correct or incorrect. 6. If you want to stop playing, just say, "Give up." Let's start with the first question.
And you can take this to another level by asking the AI to tell you how it's going to accomplish the task. Explain how you intend to accomplish the task.
Here's how I intend to accomplish the task. 1. Present a question. I'll start by presenting a question along with 4 answer options. 2. Wait for user response. I'll wait for you to respond with the number corresponding to your chosen answer. 3. Check the answer. I'll check if your chosen answer is correct or incorrect. 4. Provide feedback. I'll let you know if you got the answer right or wrong. 5. Repeat or end. If you want to continue, I'll present another question. If you say give up, I'll end the game. This process will repeat for each question until you decide to give up. Here's the flow. 1. Display the question and options. 2. Wait for your response. 3. Validate the response. 4. Provide feedback. 5. Continue to the next question or end the game based on your input. Let's begin.
Now we get to see what the AI thinks we want, as well as what it's going to do, so we get the full picture before it happens. That way we can correct it if we need to. One of the best uses of AI, in my opinion, is using it as a brainstorm partner. You can give it a role, if you like, or just fire up a session and go. Let's run through a quick example. Help me come up with some ideas of what to do for a birthday party for a 5-year-old. Give me options for indoor and outdoor activities.
Indoor activities. 1. Arts and crafts station. Set up tables with various craft supplies like crayons, markers, paper, stickers, and glue. Kids can make their own masterpieces to take home. 2. DIY cupcake decorating. Bake cupcakes in advance and provide icing, sprinkles, and other edible decorations.
The idea here is to continue brainstorming with the AI, asking about any particular options it suggests, asking it to list pros and cons, or introducing new ideas, until you arrive at the best options for you. Like this: I like the idea of a bouncy castle. Please list the pros and cons. Please elaborate on point 4. Are there any statistics about accidents? Suggest ways to make this option as safe as possible. Please create an action list for me to follow when it comes to hiring a bouncy castle. Include things I should ask for.
Pros and cons of renting a bouncy castle. Pros. 1. Entertainment value. Provides hours of fun and excitement for children. Keeps kids active and engaged. 2. Themed options. Bouncy castles come in various themes and designs to match party themes. 3. Physical activity. Encourages physical activity and helps kids burn off energy. 4. Social interaction. Promotes social interaction as children play together and cooperate. Cons. 1. Cost. Can be expensive to rent depending on the size and duration. 2. Space requirements. Requires ample outdoor space for setup. 3. Weather dependent. Outdoor bouncy castles are dependent on good weather. 4. Safety concerns. Risk of injuries such as falls, collisions, and entrapment. Elaborating on safety concerns. Statistics on accidents. According to a study by the Center for Injury Research and Policy, more than 30 children a day are treated in emergency departments in the United States for injuries related to inflatable bouncers. Common injuries include fractures, sprains, and strains, primarily affecting the arms and legs. Most injuries occur when children fall inside or out of the bouncy castle, collide with one another, or are improperly supervised. Making bouncy castles safe. Ways to enhance safety. 1. Supervision. Always have an adult supervising the bouncy castle at all times. 2. Age and size restrictions. Enforce age and size restrictions to prevent injuries from older, larger children overpowering younger, smaller ones. 3. Limit the number of children. Follow the manufacturer's guidelines on the maximum number of children allowed at one time. 4. Secure anchoring. Ensure the bouncy castle is securely anchored to prevent it from tipping or blowing away. 5. Safety rules. Establish and enforce safety rules such as no flipping, no pushing, and no climbing on the walls. 6. Regular inspections. Inspect the bouncy castle regularly for any signs of wear and tear or damage. 7. Weather considerations. Avoid using the bouncy castle in bad weather conditions such as high winds or rain. Action list for hiring a bouncy castle. 1. Research rental companies. Look for reputable companies with good reviews and a solid safety record. Check if they are licensed and insured. Questions to ask rental companies. What safety measures do you have in place? Are your bouncy castles regularly inspected and maintained? Do you provide setup and takedown services? What are the age and weight limits for your bouncy castles? Do you offer supervision services or guidelines for safe use? 3. Verify insurance and licensing. Ensure the company has proper insurance coverage for accidents and injuries.
That was a short brainstorming session, but you can see how you can apply this to just about any area of your life. You can also flip the idea of instructing the AI on its head and get the AI to ask you questions so you gain clarity. I want to start an online business. Ask me questions to figure out some good options for me.
That sounds like an exciting venture. To help you figure out some good options for your online business, I'll need to ask you a series of questions to understand your interests, skills, resources, and goals. Here we go. 1. Interests and passion. What are you passionate about, or what hobbies do you enjoy? Are there any industries or niches that particularly interest you? 2. Skills and expertise. What skills or expertise do you currently have? Do you have experience in any specific field or industry?
Once you answer all the questions the AI throws at you and it comes up with your best potential options, you can go into brainstorm mode and explore the options, asking the AI to list pros and cons, do cost projections, and even do risk assessment for each option. The deeper you go, the better insights you're going to get. As you feed back to the AI and even share your thoughts with it, it learns more about you and it will adjust the outputs accordingly. Remember that everything you tell the AI is context, and it can use that context to calibrate its output. And of course, you can also take a more proactive role and introduce your own ideas, then ask the AI to assess those for you. It's pretty amazing. Let's talk about a technique called chain of thought prompting. Chain of thought is when you think through the steps to a solution. Doctors often employ a chain of thought process to diagnose a patient. A teacher breaking down a math problem so you can see the logic is using a chain of thought process. The best time to use chain of thought prompts is when you're trying to solve a complex task. As with the persona pattern, data shows that this technique can produce better results. Let's use a chain of thought prompt to teach the AI how to solve a math problem. A farmer sold 75 apples and 85 oranges. If oranges cost 80 cents each and apples cost 60 cents each, how much total revenue did the farmer earn from the fruits? Chain of thought prompt. 1. Calculate the total revenue from apples. Multiply the number of apples, 75, by the price per apple, 60 cents. 2. Calculate the total revenue from oranges. Multiply the number of oranges, 85, by the price per orange, 80 cents. 3. Add the revenue from apples and oranges to get the total revenue.
To determine the total revenue the farmer earned from selling apples and oranges, we will follow these steps. 1. Calculate the total revenue from apples. 2. Calculate the total revenue from oranges. 3. Sum the revenues from both apples and oranges to get the total revenue. Step 1. Calculate the total revenue from apples. The number of apples sold is 75, and each apple costs 60 cents. Revenue from apples equals 75 times 0.60. Revenue from apples equals 45.
This chain of thought approach guides the AI step by step through the problem. This can help avoid common pitfalls in complex tasks and generate more accurate answers. Chain of thought prompting is particularly handy when you're working with custom or private data, because you can teach the AI how to perform the task step by step, so it has a template to follow. Now, you can also flip this concept around and use chain of thought prompting to output the AI's logic, like this. I have $5,000 to invest. Should I put it into stocks, bonds, or a savings account? Describe your reasoning.
Deciding where to invest $5,000 depends on several factors, including your financial goals, risk tolerance, time horizon, and current economic conditions. Let's look at the pros and cons of each option: stocks, bonds, and a savings account. 1. Stocks. Pros. Potential for high returns. Historically, stocks have offered higher returns compared to bonds and savings accounts over the long term. The average annual return of the stock market is around 7 to 10%.
And another. My laptop is running slow. What should I check to diagnose the issue? Show your reasoning.
When diagnosing a slow laptop, several factors could be contributing to the issue. Here are the steps and checks you should perform. 1. Check for malware and viruses. Reasoning. Malware or viruses can consume significant system resources, causing your laptop to run slowly. Action. Run a full system scan using a reputable antivirus program.
And another. Should I report a co-worker who is stealing small items from the office? Show your reasoning.
Reporting a coworker who is stealing small items from the office can be a difficult decision, but there are several reasons why it is generally the right course of action. 1. Integrity and ethics. Allowing theft to go unreported can undermine your own integrity and the ethical standards of the workplace. By reporting the theft, you uphold a culture of honesty and accountability. 2. Legal obligations. Many workplaces have policies and laws that require employees to report theft. Failing to report could potentially make you complicit or liable if the theft is discovered later.
Chain of thought prompting is an amazing and powerful technique. When solving tasks you're familiar with, seeing the AI's logic step by step enables you to correct any issues before running your prompt. And if you already run a prompt, you can still use this approach to get the AI to output every step in retrospect, so you're able to see where the AI went wrong if there's an issue with the output. And finally, if you're absurdly bad at math like I am, chain of thought prompting comes in very useful because it not only lets me see how the AI is arriving at a solution, it actually shows me how to solve the problem. This technique is great for saving time and effort. We simply create a template we can reuse each time we want the AI to perform a given task. Let's say you give people advice on investing. We'll use a previous example. I have $5,000 to invest. Should I put it into stocks, bonds, or a savings account? So we start by breaking down your process. When a client asks you whether they should invest their cash in stocks, bonds, or savings accounts, you have a process you go through in order to deal with this question. Let's say your process is this. 1. You consider the person's financial goals, risk tolerance, investment timeline, and current financial situation. 2. Then you consider the risk level for each investment option, returns, sustainability, and best intended use. 3. Then you match the client with the best option for them based on all the information. So we can tell the AI to follow this process in order to arrive at the best option. This is essentially chain of thought prompting, but here we're using it to create a template we can reuse. So that could look something like this. You are an expert in investing. Your job is to advise on an investing strategy. Here is the step-by-step approach you need to follow. 1. Ask the user how much they would like to invest. 2. Ask the user about their financial goals. 3. Ask the user about their risk tolerance. 4. Ask the user about their current financial situation. The investment opportunities to consider are as follows: stocks, bonds, savings account. Assess each of these options with the following criteria: risk level, returns, suitability, for example, best for short-term financial goals if you need access to your money quickly and without penalties, or best for long-term goals if you can leave the money in an account for X number of years. And consideration, for example, good for an emergency fund or if you are averse to risk. Let's run through that.
Great. Let's start with the first step. Step 1, investment amount. How much would you like to invest? Once I have this information, we can proceed to the next steps. Step 2, financial goals. What are your financial goals? For example, saving for retirement, buying a home, building an emergency fund, saving for education, other specific goals. Step 3, risk tolerance. How would you describe your risk tolerance? Low, I prefer safer investments with lower returns. Medium, I'm okay with some risk for moderate returns. High, I'm willing to take significant risk for higher returns. Step 4, current financial situation. Can you describe your current financial situation? For example, do you have any existing debts? Do you have an emergency fund? Are there any upcoming major expenses? What is your current income and savings status? These details will help tailor an investment strategy that fits your needs and circumstances. Thank you for providing the details. Based on your information, here's an assessment of each investment option. Investment options assessment. 1. Savings account. Risk level, low. Returns, low, typically around 0.01% to 0.50% APY. Suitability, best for short-term financial goals and if you need quick access to your money without penalties.
Now we have ourselves a program that can perform this task in seconds. You'll have noticed that I used a combination of techniques in that prompt. First, I gave the AI a role. You are an expert in investing. Then I gave it a task. Your job is to advise on an investing strategy. Then I used chain of thought prompting to teach the AI the step-by-step logic of how to solve this task. Then I gave the AI a set of steps to follow so it knows what input to ask for from the user. And then I instructed the AI to assess each of the investing options in relation to the user's input. I can now repeat this entire process without having to enter the instructions. I can just type in a new prompt, such as "Please start again from scratch." You can create templates such as this for all the tasks you perform regularly and save yourself a serious amount of time. Another technique we can use is getting the AI to connect the dots for us when we don't know all the information about a process. For example, I want to travel from Garswood to Liverpool Lime Street by train. What are the stations on the way?
Traveling from Garswood to Liverpool Lime Street by train involves several stations along the way. The stations on this route are part of the Northern Line, operated by Northern Trains. Here are the stations you would typically pass through. 1. Garswood. 2. St. Helens Central. 3. Thadow Heath. 4. Eccleston Park. 5. Prescott. 6. Wheaton. 7. Roby. 8. Broad Green. 9. Wavertree Technology Park. 10. Edge Hill. 11. Liverpool Lime Street.
This is correct. Aside from Liverpool, I deliberately used a small town in the northwest of the UK and a small train route rather than a major one. Here's another example. I'm driving from Warrington to Wembley in London. Please map out the fastest route. Include stops every 1 hour.
To drive from Warrington to Wembley in London, you can follow the fastest route primarily using the M6 and M1 motorways. Here's a detailed plan with hourly stops. Route overview. 1. Start Warrington. 2. Take 56 towards Manchester. 3. Merge onto M6 towards Birmingham. 4. Switch to M1 towards London. 5. Exit M1 at Junction 1 to get onto the A406 North Circular Road towards Wembley.
These are simple examples of how you can use this type of prompt to get the AI to connect the dots or fill in the information in the middle that you don't know. You could use this for any type of process or for getting information about processes in various industry sectors like book publishing or engineering. You can even get information on each of the steps involved in getting a tooth implant or preparing a plot of land to grow tomatoes. Your imagination really is the limit. I like to use this for simple and practical things most of the time, as well as for satisfying my own curiosity. Like this: I want to travel from London to Kuala Lumpur by train. Please map out the route.
Traveling from London to Kuala Lumpur by train involves multiple legs across different continents, incorporating a combination of train routes, transfers, and potentially other modes of transport such as buses or ferries to cover some segments. Here is a possible route. 1. London, UK to Paris, France. Train, Eurostar, duration approx 2.5 hours. 2. Paris, France to Moscow, Russia. Train, Paris-Moscow Express, operates occasionally, ensure availability.
This prompt helped us connect the dots by getting the AI to show us the route. Now we know it's possible to travel from London to Kuala Lumpur by train. On this occasion, the AI was pretty useful and provided journey times. It correctly assumed my intention. But it doesn't always do this when you don't explicitly ask for something, because the AI, at least for now, tends to follow your instructions to the letter. So on this occasion, we ended up with a good output, more by chance than by design. The AI even mentioned visas, which didn't even occur to me. But still, we want more than this. We've got to grips with prompting by now, and we want to really make use of AI. So let's build a prompt that gets us a really useful output. Include the name of the rail company that runs each service, as well as ticket prices for both standard class and first class. Include also an overnight stay whenever any leg of the journey exceeds 6 hours. List 5 hotels nearest to the train station where I'll be staying overnight. List the distance from the hotel to the station. The hotel must have Wi-Fi. List also the average price of a single room. I will be traveling in the month of September. Output the total cost of the train journey by standard class and by first class, as well as the number of days it will take. Include a list of things I will need for this journey, such as visas, passports, etc. Let's run it.
Here is a mapped-out train journey from London to Kuala Lumpur with details on rail companies, ticket prices, overnight stays, hotels near train stations, and necessary travel preparations. Route breakdown. 1. London, UK to Paris, France. Rail company, Eurostar. Duration approx 2.5 hours. Ticket prices, standard £39, first class £115. Hotel options near Gare du Nord, Paris. 1. Hotel Whistler, 0.1 miles approx, £150 night. 2. Ibis Paris Gare du Nord Chateau Landon, 0.2 miles approx, 120 night. Total cost summary: standard class, £2,409, first class, £3,909, total duration, approx 14 to 16 days. Things needed for the journey: 1. Valid passport, ensure it has at least 6 months of validity. 2. Visas: Schengen visa, France, Russian visa, Chinese visa, Lao visa, Thai visa, Malaysian visa if required. 3. Travel insurance. 4. Train tickets and reservations. 5. Currency for each country: euros, rubles, yuan, kip, baht, ringgit. 6. Accommodation booking. 7. International driving license if planning to rent cars. 8. Health documents, vaccination certificates if required. 9. Travel guidebooks and maps. Ensure to check for any travel advisories or restrictions in each country due to current global conditions. Safe travels.
That's the kind of really useful output we can get by spending a little time thinking about our prompt. The better the input, the better the output. And on that note, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to build a super prompt. See you then. I came across a simple but very powerful idea one day while building a prompt to create an article. I actually showed the idea in one of my videos, and it was very well received. So there I was writing this prompt. I knew exactly what I wanted, and the prompt was pretty long, packed with context, ground rules, and instructions on things like audience, tonality, reading level, etc. Then the thought occurred to me: how can I know the output will be the best version it could be? The only way to know this would be to test different variations of the prompt, on and on forever. And then it came to me: what if I just asked the AI to generate the prompt for me. So I did. Let me show you that clip. This prompt changes everything. So there I was prompting the AI to create an article. And then I thought, how do I know that this is the best possible prompt? And then it came to me. What if I ask the AI to create the perfect prompt? Craft the perfect prompt that instructs you to create an article on sustainable living. The key to making this one work is to tell the AI the purpose or the goal. In this case, we want the article to rank at the top of Google. The aim of the article is to rank at the top of Google.
Write a detailed and SEO-optimized article on sustainable living for our lifestyle blog. This article should be approximately 2,000 words long and should be accessible, engaging, and easy to read for a general audience. It should begin with a compelling introduction that hooks the reader, followed by a clear explanation of what sustainable living is and why it's important in today's world. The body of the article should include sections on benefits of sustainable living, steps towards sustainable living, case studies or examples of sustainable living, challenges and misconceptions, the future of sustainable living. Remember to incorporate relevant keywords such as sustainable living, eco-friendly lifestyle, reduce, reuse, recycle, green living, sustainable practices, environmentally friendly, etc. to improve the article's SEO ranking. Use these keywords in a natural and relevant manner within the text, and aim for a keyword density of 1 to 2%. Don't forget to include internal and external links to relevant and authoritative sources, and include a strong call to action at the end of the article to encourage reader engagement. Also, create an SEO-friendly meta description for the article. Please ensure the article is well structured with headers, subheaders, bullet points, images, infographics, etc. for readability and improved user experience. All data and information should be accurate and up to date as of 2023.
Now that is a prompt. This is a game changer. It leverages AI in a new way. Instead of the onus being on us having to create great inputs in order to get great outputs, we can ask the AI to work with us on the input. It's like having a personal assistant who's a master of the written word and being able to rattle off a few bullet points knowing the assistant will craft fantastic content from it. I've since tweaked this process to make it even better. Let me give you the 3-step workflow. First, type in your prompt. End your prompt by asking the AI to confirm it understands the task. This is the same as asking the AI what it understands the task to be. This enables you to confirm that the AI is interpreting the intention you have in mind, and it solves the issue of multiple interpretations. Once you confirm the AI understands what you're asking, ask it if it has any questions. This enables you to ensure you didn't forget to mention anything important enough to affect the output. If you did, the AI will ask you the things you missed out. And finally, tell the AI to create the perfect prompt based on all the input so far. Let's look at this in practice. We'll start with a zero-shot prompt with little to no context just to see how we can use the AI to help us improve the prompt. Create an article about tiny homes for people looking for information on tiny homes. Please explain the task back to me and wait for my input.
Certainly, the task is to create an informative article about tiny homes. The article will cover key aspects such as 1. Definition of tiny homes. What constitutes a tiny home, including typical size ranges? 2. Benefits of tiny homes. Advantages like cost savings, environmental impact, and lifestyle changes. 3. Types of tiny homes, different styles and structures, e.g. mobile, stationary, container homes. 4. Cost considerations, initial costs, ongoing expenses, and potential savings. 5. Legal and zoning issues, regulations, permits, and legal considerations for tiny home living. 6. Living in a tiny home, practical aspects, space management, and lifestyle adjustments. 7. Building and purchasing options, DIY versus buying pre-built, where to buy, and custom options. Please confirm if these points cover what you want or if there are additional aspects or specific details you would like included.
They are, but please tell me, do you have any questions for me before you write the article?
Great. Here are a few questions to ensure the article meets your needs. 1. Target audience. Who is the primary audience for this article, e.g. potential tiny home buyers, enthusiasts, people looking to downsize? 2. Tone and style. Should the article be formal, casual, or somewhere in between? 3. Length. Is there a specific word count or range you have in mind? 4. Focus areas. Are there any specific areas within the topic of tiny homes that you want more emphasis on, e.g. sustainability, design ideas, cost analysis? 5. Sources. Would you like the article to reference specific studies, experts, or real-life examples of tiny home living? 6. Additional elements. Do you need any visual elements like images or infographics to be mentioned or included? Please let me know your preferences for these aspects.
Here are the answers. 1. People looking to downsize. 2. Informational. 3. 2,000 words. 4. Cost analysis. 5. Real-life examples. 6. No. Now please craft the perfect prompt based on all this information to instruct ChatGPT to perform this task.
Sure. Here's the prompt for ChatGPT to craft the article. Prompt: write a 2,000-word informational article about tiny homes for people looking to downsize. The article should cover the following points. 1. Definition of tiny homes. Explain what constitutes a tiny home, including typical size ranges. 2. Benefits of tiny homes. Discuss the advantages such as cost savings, environmental impact, and lifestyle changes. 3. Types of tiny homes. Describe different styles and structures, e.g., mobile, stationary, container homes. 4. Cost considerations. Provide a detailed cost analysis, including initial costs, ongoing expenses, and potential savings. 5. Legal and zoning issues. Explain regulations, permits, and legal considerations for tiny home living. 6. Living in a tiny home. Cover practical aspects, space management, and lifestyle adjustments. 7. Building and purchasing options. Compare DIY versus buying pre-built, where to buy, and custom options. 8. Real-life examples. Include real-life examples of people living in tiny homes to illustrate points. The article should be engaging and informative, catering specifically to an audience interested in downsizing. Use a clear and accessible tone, and include concrete details and practical advice throughout. This prompt ensures that all your requirements are addressed. If there's anything else you'd like to adjust or add, please let me know.
And that's how you can design a perfect version of any prompt you need. I still recommend you enter as much context as you can think of in your original prompt. That way, when you move on to step 2 and ask the AI if there are any questions, the questions will be a lot more targeted because the AI will have much more context and therefore a much clearer idea of what you want. Remember to state things like the purpose or goal of the task in your prompt. For example, if you're generating content for the web, the goal could be to rank and gain traffic or to convert that traffic to buying customers or subscribers. You can also, in the case of an article, dictate what the conclusion should be or should convey. For example, impart some moral or message or life lesson. Use ground rules and everything else we've covered in this course to craft a great baseline prompt. When you move on to step 2, you'll note that the AI will ask you much better questions about the task. And there you have the ingredients to create seriously good content. Personally, I treat the AI more like a person than a thing. If I want to work out some numbers, I can use a calculator. The interaction is cold, detached, mechanical, input and output. With AI, though, we have a chance to explore just about anything to a very deep level. We have a chance to ask why and gain a deeper understanding of all things. We can ask the AI what supernovas are and why they happen and how. And we can ask theoretical questions like what would happen if a supernova took place near our galaxy? What would the repercussions be, if any? Who else could you ask this? And in case you're interested, if a supernova took place as close as 4.2 light years away, we'd be in big trouble. So once you learn the prompt techniques, you can integrate those into your own preferred style of interaction. My approach is conversational. I approach my interactions with AI as I would an employee. That's in fact how I view the AI, as a super assistant. When I create a task, it's like I'm writing an email to my super assistant. Aside from quick questions and one-shot prompts, I treat tasks like projects. Some projects are small, but others are ongoing. AI isn't affected by time in the same way that we are, so we can start a conversation or a task, and you can come back to it 2 days later and continue exactly where you left off. There are many benefits of doing this, instead of starting new conversations each time you want to perform a task you've already asked for in the past. The AI learns from context, so the longer the conversation, the more context there is. The AI can learn your preferences each time you make corrections, so it can start to generate even better output as the conversation continues. It's no different to what we do as humans. The longer we know people, the more we understand them and the better we are at interacting with them. So for example, if you ask the AI to act as your therapist, you're going to get better advice as that conversation matures into days, weeks, and months, just like it would with a human therapist. So I have multiple sessions or conversations running at any one time, and I don't delete them if I know I will be making use of them again. I simply pop in and out of them when I need to. Another benefit of this approach is that your task-based conversations can serve as templates. For example, if I ask the AI to simplify a sentence, I can revisit that conversation anytime in the future, type in a new sentence, and the AI will simplify it for me without me having to ask it to, because the original prompt at the start of the session already described the task, and we are back in the same conversation. The non-task-based threads are more like conversations you have with other people. They can be short or they can be ongoing. Let me give you an example of one of my task-based conversations. I once created a real customer profile inputting everything I knew about a particular person. I then asked the AI to craft a customer avatar based on this. I asked the AI to infer attributes and list fears, aspirations, and motivations. I continually reviewed and refined the output, and I ended up with a 40-page document which turned out to be a very detailed profile of a real customer. It took multiple sessions over the course of a week. And if you're interested in why I was doing that, here's why. Once the profile was complete, I had myself a test environment to run simulations. I could ask the AI to assume the role of the customer, and then I could present an offer, see how the customer reacted, and tweak accordingly. Crazy, I know. Consider that a bonus strategy. So that's my approach. I manage multiple tasks and conversations, and I revisit them when I need to. It's like having a team of super assistants, each ready to pick up exactly where you left off without needing any reminders. That's real power. And of course, I create disposable conversations all the time for new stuff that comes up. When I decided to buy a new coffee machine, I did most of my research in Chat GPT. When I want to know things about a historical figure or a myth or a legend or a piece of news, I ask Chat GPT. When I'm figuring out train journeys or I have a question about something I just read or heard about, I ask Chat GPT. Oftentimes I ask single questions, but that alone can save minutes, and every minute counts. In my book, Perfect Solopreneur in the Age of AI, I describe AI as a time machine. If you create 500 articles and it takes you 500 days, you have 500 articles and you're 500 days older. If, on the other hand, you generate 500 articles with AI, you have 500 articles and you're 500 days younger than you should be. This simple example illustrates the incalculable potential of AI and how we can leverage it to accomplish more in our lifetimes than we ever thought possible before November 2022. When I was a kid, I read one of those lists that tell you how many years we spend asleep, in the bathroom, sitting at traffic lights, etc. And it terrified me. I thought about it on and on for years. Those things are inevitable in most cases, which made it all the worse. But now with AI, we get to save time, and a lot of it. We can literally double our lives. This really is a one-in-a-millennia event, and all it takes is being able to craft a well-thought-out prompt. When it comes to prompting, the real power comes from combining prompt techniques. You can ask the AI to assume a role, give it a template to follow, provide it with examples, establish some ground rules, and that already puts you so far ahead of most users that it's not even funny. But more importantly, it gives you mastery over AI and the power to get the most out of it. And that's a good power to have, because there are only two options. Either you are the master of it, or you're at its whim. AI will inevitably disrupt just about every industry and create many new ones, transforming the world we know and our experiences. Right now, we're at the forefront of it all. The skill with the biggest ROI right now is being able to communicate effectively with AI. I hope these techniques I've shared with you will help you to do just that. Thank you for sharing your time with me and allowing me to be a part of your journey. Please join the community and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you're interested, check out my book on Amazon, Perfect Solopreneur in the Age of AI. Thank you again, and I'll see you soon.